Britain summoned the Chinese ambassador over allegations a consulate employee in Hong Kong was tortured. He's Simon Cheng. He says Chinese secret police beat him, deprived him of sleep, and chained him up whilst pressing him for information about activists leading those protests in Hong Kong. Mr. Cheng was detained for 15 days during a trip to the mainland in August. Live now to Beijing and our correspondent Andrew Thomas. Andrew, do we know any more details about these claims from Mr. Cheng?
Well, the claims were put to a spokesperson for the Foreign Ministry here in Beijing about 2 hours ago now. And the response from Beijing was essentially to deny them completely and say that Mr. Cheng, yes, he was detained, but he was detained for soliciting a prostitute, nothing to do with what happened in Hong Kong, nothing to do with the situation there. And while he was detained, all his legal rights were respected. Well, that, of course, goes against everything that Mr. Cheng has said in his interviews with the Wall Street Journal and others, which essentially say that he was tortured for the 2 weeks or so that he was held in detention in mainland China. So a real difference there in terms of story. And interestingly as well, the Foreign Ministry spokesperson said that the Chinese ambassador in London will not be going to see the Foreign Minister in London. He will turn down that invitation. So a real rebuke there to the British government. Now, Peter, a little bit more on the Chinese response as well to this passing of the vote in the US Senate, which really has condemned what's going on in Hong Kong. China, in turn, has issued a very long and detailed, very strong statement condemning that vote in the US Senate. I won't read much of it, but suffice to say that they say that this act by the US Senate, passing of the act, it neglects facts and truth, applies double standards and blatantly interferes in Hong Kong affairs. The issue Hong Kong faces is not about human rights or democracy, but about stopping violence and chaos. They call the US Senate, they say the US Senate has got a hidden agenda. This act paints criminal moves in Hong Kong as pursuit of human rights and democracy. That is wrong, this statement says, and it will boomerang back against the US. And towards the end of this statement, there's a real, well, not a very veiled threat at all, a very explicit threat that if this act goes further and is made law, if Donald Trump essentially gives his assent to this law, then there will be serious repercussions and China will have to take strong countermeasures to defend our national sovereignty. The essence of the statement there, and indeed with the Simon Cheng issue as well, is that all of these issues are internal issues within China, Hong Kong, which of course is one country, and they're nothing to do with the British government or the US Senate or indeed the American presidency either. So really strong condemnation by China of all this, what they see as interference in their internal affairs.
Andrew, thank you.